grade 12s. Welcome to today's lesson. It's economics with Ms. Piwe, and today we'll be looking at the government policy. Remember, on our previous lesson, we were still busy with the business cycles. We looked at the causes of the upwards and the downwards trends that happen in the business cycles. So today we're going to expand on what we did on our previous lesson, and now we are going to focus on government policy. Remember, we looked at two approaches. One was the exogenous approach, which believed that the government intervention is not necessary in the economy and also in influencing the business cycles. And then the endogenous approach, it really emphasizes on the fact that government has the responsibility to be involved in order to ensure that the cycles are managed, and therefore the government can do this through policy. They can use monetary policy, or they can use a fiscal policy in order to monitor and influence and also manage the business cycles. So the focus on today's lesson will be on government policy, and we're going to look at how government actually uses monetary policy to influence, manage the business cycle. So let's get started. All right, so we know that government can use monetary and or fiscal instruments to help stabilize business cycles, also called fine-tuning, okay? So they can use fine-tuning in order to stabilize the business cycles. Other books refer to it as the smoothing of the economy. So the government has the power and has the instruments and resources in order to perform this task, the task of fine-tuning the economy. The endogenous approach believes that the government should be involved, should intervene in the business cycles or to help stabilize the business cycles. So now we're going to look at the policy instruments that the government can use in order to stabilize business cycles. So the first policy that we're going to look at is the monetary policy. So we're going to first define what a monetary policy is, and also later on we will look at how the government can actually use the monetary policy to stabilize the business cycles. So the monetary policy can be defined as policies used by monetary authorities like the South African Reserve Bank or the Monetary Policy Committee to change the quantity of money in circulation as well as the interest rates, with the aim of stabilizing or to stabilize prices, reach full employment and achieve high economic growth. So there are a couple of things that are interesting in that definition, and I think what we really need to do now is unpack this definition and actually use practical examples to show how this could be achieved. So we know that the South African Reserve Bank and the Monetary Policy Committee play an important role in managing the quantity of money that is in circulation. And we know that they do influence the interest rate because of the repo rate that they charge the banks, the commercial banks. Because if they increase the repo rate, then the commercial banks will also increase the interest rates. And they're doing this in order to try and stabilize the prices, but also they want to reach full employment and also achieve high economic growth, okay? So these are all good things for an economy because we want to control the money in circulation in a country. Also, we want to control interest rates in order to manage the inflation as well. But prices, because if the prices are stable, then that also will be a measure to control the interest rate. But we also want to reach full employment and also achieve high economic growth where there is more economic activity happening within a country. The second point that we're going to look at is the size of the M3 money stock. Okay, so an M3 money stock is the liquid cash in a country's economy. This is made up of deposits that are easily accessible, notes and coins. So that would be referred as the M3 money stock. It is an important determinant of the quantity of money, because earlier on we mentioned something about money in circulation that is monitored by the South African Reserve Bank and the Monetary Policy Committee. They are responsible in ensuring that they control the quantity of money in circulation. Remember a couple of years ago in Zimbabwe when they were dealing with high inflations because there was so much money floating in the economy that the currency lost its value. I know at some point there was a note for 1 million Zim dollars, but that wasn't really worth much because of the amount of money that was in circulation. So that does compromise the quality or the value of the currency. So it is the role of the Reserve Bank and the Monetary Policy Committee in order to ensure that they control the quantity of money in circulation. So in this instance, we'll be focusing on the M3 money stock, looking at the liquid cash that is available in a country's economy, which is made up of easily accessible deposits, notes, and coins. Okay, so some important concepts just, from these 2 points that we have just discussed, the money in circulation, interest rates, stable prices, full employment, and high economic growth as well. So we're going to move on to our next point. So the following two theories explain changes in the quantity of money and its impact on the economy. So the first theory that we're going to look at is the quantity theory of money, which shows how an increase in the stock of money can lead to an increase in the inflation rate and a decrease in the buying power of money. So this is the quantity theory that shows that if there's an increase in stock of money, so if there is more money in circulation, that can lead to an increase in the inflation rate. That was my example earlier on when I mentioned what had happened in Zimbabwe during that particular time, where there was an increase in the amount of money that was in circulation, and that resulted in an increase in the inflation rate. The inflation rate was so high, it was actually a ridiculous amount when you would hear of it. It was actually unbelievable that an interest rate could go up that high. So that was a good example to show you that if the amount of money in circulation is not well managed, that could have a negative impact on the economy, and that would obviously increase the interest rate, and we don't want to find ourselves in that particular situation. And then this will also then means that there will be a decrease in the buying power of the money. So the value of the money will decrease. Hence, I was mentioning those notes. I remember when someone gave me one, and I couldn't believe that I've got 100 million rand, and it wasn't really worth that much because of the amount of money that was in circulation. So the value of the currency had decreased because of the high inflation rate, and that the fact that the money had lost its value. That is the currency. So this is how the quantity theory works, but it does have a formula, so an equation. So let's just have a look at the equation so that we can better understand how it works. Okay. So here's our equation. So MV equals to PT. So M represents the total stock of money, and V is the velocity of money. P will be the prices of goods and services. T is the quantity and quantity of goods and services. Okay, so we've got the total stock of money, we've got the velocity, we've got the prices, and over here we've got the quantity. So what does this all mean? Okay, so I'm just going to go down. There we are. All right, so when the stock of money, which is M, increases, prices will rise. Okay, so the stock of money goes up, it increases, and then prices will also rise. Okay, so that's the first point. And because production T cannot be increased immediately, it would lead to inflation. Okay, so the stock of money is going up, the prices are going up, but production will not increase immediately, and therefore that would lead to inflation, assuming that velocity V remains constant. Okay, so that was the situation that was happening in Zimbabwe, that the total quantity of money was up, prices were up, but production was not catching up, okay, because it wasn't increasing immediately. And as a result of that, they found themselves with a high inflation rate. I know that the South African Reserve Bank tries by all means to control the inflation rate. So they try and control the spending. Sometimes they will increase the interest rates to discourage consumers from spending, but also encourage them to save. So our monetary policy at the moment seems to be in a good place because we are managing our inflation quite well, and especially when we are going through a difficult economic climate. So it's important that we have an understanding. You know, I often hear people say, why don't we print more money? You know, why does the Reserve Bank just print more notes and so that the government can develop infrastructure, start new businesses, and make sure that they catch up with their service delivery programs? It's not that easy, because if there's too much money floating in the economy, that will increase the inflation rate and the prices will go up. And we don't want to find ourselves in a situation where we are dealing with a high interest rate, because that is a difficult period to manage, or to manage in the world of economics. The second theory links the change in deposits. So now we're looking at the change in deposits and the cash reserve requirement. If the amount of new deposits increase, the money multiplier then kicks in. Okay, so total stock will equal to the aggregate demand, and then we will have to multiply that by 1 and divide it by RD. Okay, so let's have a look at our formula over here. So TM over here is our total stock of money at the end of the process. The aggregate demand will equal to the initial inflow of money, of new money, and to the banks or new deposits. And RD will be our minimum cash reserve percentage kept by the banks. Okay, so there is a relationship between total stock of money and the aggregate demand as well, which is based on the initial inflow of new money to the banks and the new deposits. And then obviously the minimum cash reserve percentage, which are kept by commercial banks. So here's an example just to make sure that we've got a better understanding of what I've just mentioned. So it can be seen that a relatively small deposit of 1,000 Rand with a relatively small cash reserve requirement of 5%. Okay, so here's our deposit of 1,000 Rand, and the cash reserve requirement is 5%, may lead to a relatively large increase in the total stock of money. Okay, so TM, which is the total stock of money, will equal to 1,000 times 1 divided by 0.05, which equals to 1,000 times 20, and we have then 20,000 Rand over there. Okay, so this goes back to our formula over here, where we looked at the total stock of money, which will equal to the aggregate demand times by 1 and divide by RD, which will be the percentage of new money or the percentage of money kept by financial or commercial banks. All right, so let's move on to our next point. So keeping the two theories in mind, the central bank can use the following instruments separately or jointly from its arsenal of money and related policy instruments in a selective or discretionary manner. Okay, so the banks can then look at the two theories, the one that actually first refers to the fact that, so we just want to go back to our first one. So our first one, the quantity theory of money flow, which shows how an increase in stock of money can lead to an increase in inflation. And then our second one over here, which links the change in deposits and the cash reserve requirement. So if the amount of new deposits increase, and then the money multiplier then kicks into the system. So what we're going to do now, we are going to take a short break, and then when we come back from the break, we will then continue with this exciting economics lesson. Stay tuned. See you just now.